The night I felt like I might lose the person I love most in the world didn't happen during a loud fight with lots of shouting and slammed doors. It didn't happen because of a big lie or secret. Instead, it happened during a very quiet dinner just 3 months before our wedding day. The restaurant was warm and the lights were low. My fiancé, Emma, looked at me with a soft, kind smile that always made me feel safe. She reached across the white tablecloth to hold my hand. At that moment, she said something that made the whole restaurant feel like it was disappearing around me. She told me there was something I needed to accept before we officially got married and started our new life. I smiled back at her, thinking she was going to talk about something sweet, like where we would go for the holidays or what our new last name would look like on a mailbox. But then, she calmly told me that her ex-boyfriend, Ryan, would be at our wedding. She didn't stop there. She said he would be part of our family and our future forever. Ryan was a man she had dated for almost 6 years before she met me. That is a long time to be with someone. I sat there waiting for her to tell me she was just playing a joke, but that joke never came. I finally told her she must be kidding, but she slowly shook her head. She explained that he was one of her very best friends, and she was not going to stop seeing him for anyone. I looked deep into her eyes, hoping to see her feeling unsure, but she was very certain. Right then, I knew one of us had to make a choice that would change our lives forever. For a few seconds, I couldn't even find the words to speak. I always knew Ryan was a person from her past, but I thought he stayed in the past. I didn't think he would have a permanent chair at the table of our future together. I tried to stay as calm as I could and asked her to help me understand what she was thinking. I asked why he had to be at our wedding, which was supposed to be about just the two of us. Emma took a very deep breath. She said that to her. He felt like family now. They had been through so many things together over those 6 years, but she promised me they had both moved on to new lives. She pointed out that he knew her parents, her brother, and everyone else in her life. She said she didn't want to just erase someone from her world just because they weren't dating anymore. I have always liked people who are honest, but this felt very different to me. It felt like her past was pushing its way into our present. I asked her a hard question. Would you feel okay if my ex-girlfriend stood right next to me on our big wedding day? She didn't answer me right away. She just looked down at her cup of coffee. That long silence told me everything I needed to know. For the first time since I asked her to marry me, I started to wonder if we were building two very different dreams for the same marriage. Over the next 2 weeks, I tried to tell myself that I was just being too sensitive or jealous. Emma was never sneaky about her talks with Ryan. There were no secret phone calls in the middle of the night or hidden messages on her phone. However, it seemed like every single choice we made for the wedding had his name on it. She told me that Ryan was the one who suggested our photographer. He was also the one who helped her pick the place for our party because he knew exactly what she liked. It felt like he was planning the wedding with her instead of me. When our wedding invitations finally came in the mail, I saw his name on the list before I even saw some of my own cousins and aunts. My best friend, Marcus, finally asked me the big question I was trying to ignore. He asked, if things were flipped around, would Emma really be okay with your ex being this involved in everything? Deep in my heart, I knew she wouldn't be okay with it at all. This wasn't really about being jealous or worried she would go back to him. It was about something very important called boundaries. To me, getting married means two people coming together to start a brand new family of their own. It is a special circle that only has room for two. I couldn't stop feeling like there was already a third person standing in the tiny space where our new life together was supposed to start. It felt crowded before we even said our vows. I wanted to be the most important man in her life, but it felt like I was sharing that spot with someone who had been there before me. A few days later, Emma invited me to have dinner with her mom and dad at their house. She wanted to clear the air and make things feel better. I really hoped this talk would make my worries go away and help me feel at peace. But instead, her father smiled at me and said that Ryan has always been a part of their family. He said they expected that would stay the same even after we got married. Her mother nodded her head, agreeing with him completely. They talked about Ryan like he was a son or a brother. Then Emma reached out for my hand again and told me I needed to trust her. She said Ryan wasn't going anywhere. I looked around that dinner table and realized everyone was waiting for me to just go along with a plan I never agreed to. Nobody asked me how I felt. Nobody wondered if I was okay with sharing such a special part of my married life with her old partner. I put my fork down, took a very slow breath, and thanked them for being so honest with me about how they felt. In that moment, I knew exactly what I had to do for my own heart. None of them had any idea what I was going to say next. I looked at Emma and made sure my voice stayed soft and calm. I didn't want to yell or be mean. I told her that I loved her very much, but I couldn't marry someone whose future already had another man in it in that specific way. The whole room went totally quiet. You could hear a pin drop. Her mother looked upset, like I was making a big deal out of nothing, and her father leaned back in his chair with his arms crossed tight. Emma just stared at me like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. She asked if I was giving her a mean choice, like a threat to get my way. I shook my head slowly. I told her it wasn't a threat to make her change. I said I wasn't asking her to change a single thing about her life or her friends. I was simply telling her that I would not build a marriage where I had to compete with a ghost from her past every single day. She started to argue and tell me I was wrong, but I gently pushed my engagement ring across the table toward her. I told her she had every right to pick the kind of life she wanted, and I had every right to decide that it wasn't the life I wanted for myself. Nobody in that room expected me to leave so quietly and peacefully. They probably expected me to stay and argue. The week after that was one of the hardest times of my life. Friends called me all day and night, thinking there must have been some big secret or a huge fight. But there wasn't. There was no cheating and no screaming matches. It was just a very big difference in how we thought a marriage should work. Some of our friends tried to tell me I should just give in and be quiet. They said Ryan was just a friend and that I was losing a wonderful woman over a small problem. They might have been right about her being wonderful. But I also knew that bad feelings like hurt and worry don't just go away after a wedding. They grow like weeds in a garden if you don't take care of them. If I started the marriage feeling like my feelings didn't matter, every holiday, birthday, and anniversary would just hurt me more. Love alone can't fix it when two people have completely different ideas about what is right and wrong. Sometimes, respecting someone means admitting you both want different things for your future. Try and pretend everything is okay when it isn't wouldn't be fair to her or to me. About a month later, Emma asked to meet one last time. We sat in the same small cafe where I had asked her to marry me a year before. She looked very tired and sad. She told me she never actually thought I would leave her. She thought I would just learn to live with it because I loved her so much. I gave her a sad smile. I told her that I did love her, and that is exactly why I couldn't start our marriage with a promise that I knew I couldn't keep in my heart. I couldn't promise to be happy when I was actually hurting. She told me that after the wedding was canceled, her family started asking her tough questions too. They admitted they just thought I would change to fit their world instead of standing up for my own needs. For the first time, Emma realized she had spent all her energy trying to protect her past instead of making me feel safe and special in our future. We said goodbye and wished each other well. There was no anger, just the sadness you feel when love isn't enough to fix a big problem. I walked away knowing I did the right thing. 2 years later, I met a woman who saw the world the same way I did. We shared the same ideas about what makes a family. From the very start, we talked about our friends, our trust, and what we expected from each other. We had these talks long before we ever talked about wedding cakes, flowers, or trips. Those talks weren't always easy, but they gave us something much better than just guessing what the other person was thinking. They gave us a clear path to follow together. Looking back, I don't feel bad about leaving Emma. She deserved someone who was happy with her way of life, and I deserved someone who wanted the same kind of marriage I did. Walking away wasn't about being mean or getting even for the pain. It was about being honest with myself. The hardest choice I ever made turned out to be the best one for my heart. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't staying and fighting. Sometimes it is realizing that if you don't share the same values, you will both be unhappy for a very long time. It takes real courage to walk away so that you both have a chance to find the right person who makes you feel completely at home.